Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. We're outside in a still very hot southern Florida. Uh, you know, it's still, today is a little cooler, but it is still in the mid to upper 80s. I really can't wait for it to really cool down. But I figured I'd take you all a walk around my property here, and we're going to look at some of the plantings that I have for the year. I am involved in a couple of groups, some here on YouTube, other ones just online, of trying to go with a sustainable food source grown from home, and I am kind of into that, and so I wanted to kind of show what I do as far as growing my own food around my property, especially here that in Florida it's pretty much a year-round thing, so it's a little more we're a little more able to grow stuff year-round. And I know I've talked to a couple people that are into this. They also do phone farming. There seems to really be two kinds of people that do phone farming. Ones that are in on the tech side and like to do tech stuff, and ones that are into the, sustainable, trying to make the side money, but also trying to live kind of on that fringe edge of society where you're a little more independent. You're not so focused. You're not so reliant on other people to get through. So for this will be more towards those type of people that are into that kind of homesteading and grow your own food type thing. And I know there are a lot of phone farmers there that do that as well. So this will kind of be for that type. So first off, we're going to start here in the middle of my yard, and I have a key lime. This it's got some weeds growing in it right now. It has a little bit of the discoloration we have on the leaves down here in Florida. It's gotten pretty bad. A lot of the citrus is really turned a little bad as far as getting the citrus issues. You see the leaves. But this tree is pretty old. I've had this one for about 8 years now, and I do get really nice. Some of them are a little overripe now. Like this one's a little overripe, but some really nice key limes off of it. I use them to make key lime pie. Also put them in water and drinks and stuff like that. Really nice little plant that doesn't get much bigger than this. This doesn't get like a lot of the larger lime trees and oranges. This stays about this height. That tree there, actually, Hurricane Irma actually blew it over, and it wasn't doing as well. I thought I was going to pull it up at that point, but Hurricane Irma pushed it over. It laid it over on its side. I stood it back up and got it pinned up, and it's been growing really well ever since, producing lots of limes. So I get lots of limes from that. Heading on over to one of my newest ones. I like to buy my plants smaller, but I got an orange here. It is suffering a little bit from some of the leaf issues that we get down here, but this is a red navel orange, and I'm hoping here in the next year or so this will probably a year, maybe two, to start getting some oranges off of that. I like to try and go with more trees and stuff, as they produce more than once per year. A lot of these twice a year. Our next one was actually a tree that we planted last year in December, and I'll show you. It is a ultra low chill time apple. You can see it's growing really well. It was only had 3 limbs on it. We had this limb down here, had this limb here, and then this top limb was all the tree came with. And you can see in the 1 year it has it's really grown out pretty well. I'm going to give it probably another couple years before I allow it to produce flowers and apples. At that point, we're going to walk down here to the corner, and I got to do a little weeding around here as well. But as you can see, we have a group of pineapple plants. Now, I have gotten 3 or 4 pineapples off of these already, and I just cut the tops off, replant them. You can see these smaller ones up on the front. That's exactly what happened there. You see the little lizards jumping around. They're everywhere. Same thing with tree frogs. Always got to be careful when you're in here, because snakes and stuff like that. You don't want to get bitten by anything. But these are pineapples, growing real well. I normally end up with like 1 a year at the rate that I've been going off of these. Not one per plant per year, but 1 total. I've had them here for 2 years, and as I get more, I'm just going to keep planting. And this whole corner, I'm going to fill with pineapples, because they do make for really good fresh fruit, and they also make for really good jam and topping. That's what I like to do with a lot of my fruits that I get done with. I'm going to pass just some palm trees. Got to have some palm trees on your property in Florida. These are queen palms, so once they do get to full size, they will produce coconuts. But at this point, that is a number of years out. As we come down, me and my neighbor, we both have some bananas growing here, and you can see there's some bunches of bananas on theirs, and underneath on here, this is a little different type. This one's actually going to need to be cut because they are starting to split. You can see that one's starting to split up there. So I'll go ahead and cut this off and hang these up, and we will have some fresh bananas. They will turn yellow once you get them off and hung up. They turn yellow pretty quick from what I found. I do have a number of bananas around, but that'll be then I just cut down the whole part that's leaning right there. You just cut the whole stalk down, and they just keep sprouting up. You see little ones growing up, and they will continue to grow. Had them there for a couple years, gotten a number of bunches of bananas off that. As we continue on back up around, we have the first of 2 pomegranates, and this has been the first year I actually did get some pomegranates off of it. We have a couple late flowers. You can see there's one of the flowers on it, so maybe we'll get a pomegranate or 2 left in this year. I actually picked these up at you can see there's a couple more flowers starting, so maybe there's still a little more here to go on the rest of the year. But I picked up a couple of these in the bargain bin at Lowe's, and it's been a couple of years to get to this size, but they did finally start to produce some pomegranates. I'm going to go head around to the front yard, and I got a couple more things to show you here. And my number one producer, I don't know if anybody remembers, last winter I talked about making jams, and I'll show you why here in a second. Got a few more bananas here on this side. No bananas currently on it. But we come up here to this tree here. This is a starfruit tree. And as we look in, you can see it's got quite a bit of starfruit growing all over it. And I will get lots and lots of starfruit off this tree this year. This tree is pretty big. It did get knocked back one year, but lots of starfruit going to be become available here, and I'll make them into jams. I'll make them into I got a dehydrator, make them into chips. Also eat them fresh. But they're one of the things here. I'm kind of at the very north edge of where they can be grown at. So it's one that if we have a cold winter, the tree can take some damage. But normally once the tree gets to that size, there's generally a little bit of leaf damage isn't too bad, as long as we don't get well below freezing. It's pretty good till you get right around freezing, and we only have a couple days where I'm located that actually happens. And then let me show you here. Nothing planted. I actually just planted some seeds here in my raised bed. I have some kale. I have 2 rows that'll be growing on this side of kale. I have 2 rows of spinach in the center, and then I have 2 rows of mixed lettuce off here. So this will start to grow in just planted. It's still a little bit warm, but I'm hoping things will cool down a little bit, and I can start to get some good produce. So as you can see, limes are currently growing. Bananas are currently ready to harvest as well. On the other side of my house as well, I do have another set of bananas that I showed you on the front when we first walked out there, and they do have a bunch of bananas on them as well. So I've gotten 3 bunches of bananas this fall, which is really nice, and normally we'll get some in the spring as well, normally a bunch or 2, but I got 3 this fall, so it's been really good. And the key lime, it's actually a pretty big key lime. Most of the key limes are a little smaller, but like I said, really good limes growing on this as well. The tree probably will be here for a couple more years. As they get older, they tend not to produce as well, so we may have to dig it up. But it has been it's been almost a decade now of really good limes coming off of this tree, so I've been really happy with it. And that's my gardening. I'm going to keep trying to add in more. I have future plans for around the side of the house. I'm going to be putting in, I think I'm going to be doing some raspberries or some blackberries. Haven't totally decided. Something that can take a little more shade. They don't like the heat as much, but you know, if you position stuff, you can get away with a few different things. But I'm trying to produce a landscape that, as I keep adding more plantings, will be more that will produce, whether it be trees, whether it be raised beds and stuff like that. I really want to do the best that I can to really produce a quality amount of food that I don't have to go to the store and buy, because anytime you're saving money, it's the same thing as making it, and actually saving money is a lot easier than making it for the most part. So I thank you all for watching on my tour of my gardens, and if you want to see more as the stuff starts to grow in, especially in the raised bed, I'll do an update video. If we start to see some more pomegranates, I will give you an update on how they're going, as well as any new plantings. I thank you all for joining me. As always, have a wonderful day.